All right, well today we're going to do an install on a rear bumper for a 5th Gen 4Runner. We've been getting a lot of requests to do an install video for these. So we have this 2020 model TRD Pro 4Runner here. This is going to be the same installation for all of the 2010 through the current model, currently 2021 model TRD or Toyota 4Runner, any model in that generation. So we've already gone ahead here and removed the plastic bumper cover. What we're going to do to remove that, we've just got a few bolts and screws that are on the back side where the fender is, just into the mud flap. We're going to pull that out. There's some up underneath, and then right here around the hatch, you're going to find a bunch of screws all the way around. Make sure when you pull this that you're going to go ahead and keep all of your hardware, because we are going to reuse a portion of this bumper to go ahead and put it back in place and do all the fit and finish on it. So we have already run, for this particular bumper, we have a aluminum, our aluminum dual swing bumper. This one they've opted for a ladder and a tire carrier. So we've got it all set up here. When you order these, powder coating is included in the price, so you will get it just like it is. We do pre-assemble them before they go out the door, so it saves you some steps once you get the product to go ahead and put it on. But we're going to go ahead and install this bumper on this truck today. We have run already for this one. We do have a camera relocation kit that comes with the dual swings, and we have already taken all of this apart and run our camera wiring. So we've rerun the wire here, and so it's already pre-set up. The next step that we have here, we haven't removed any of the brackets or anything from the frame, so we're going to go ahead and remove the hitch. There are some small plates and brackets up underneath, as well as the wiring harness for the trailer and the tow hook. And so there's a plate here, the wiring harness and the tow hook and the hitch. All of those things are going to come off the frame, so we're going to go ahead and strip out the frame, make sure it's ready to go, and we have a clean frame to work with. It is always a good idea to go ahead and get all the dirt and grime off of these before you put the new bumper on, just to make sure you're not scratching it up. We want to prevent the surface from getting rusty as much as possible, so get that dirt and crap off of there, and that'll help you maintain a better product at the end. This particular bumper did opt for our high clearance hitch, which I have right over here. This is our high clearance hitch. It is a direct replacement for the factory hitch, but what it does when you look at this is it does pull the level of the hitch up quite a bit. So same tow ratings, everything is actually built a little bit heavier duty, but this will just pull that up, get it a little bit higher up off the ground, kind of keeps you from dragging a little bit. So in this case, we are going to remove the hitch completely. If you are keeping the factory hitch, you're only going to pull these 4 bolts and leave the bottom 2 in, leaving the hitch in place when you install the bumper, and the bumper will actually install up and over top of the hitch. So we're going to get started pulling all those brackets and get ready to do the initial install on this bumper. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've stripped all of the brackets and everything off from underneath the frame. We've gone ahead and installed our high clearance hitch using just the bottom 2 bolts currently, making sure that we are lined up on the front face bolts. Now we're actually ready at this point to go ahead and put the bumper up and in place. So we're going to be bolting it on through the front face of the bumper, through these 4 holes, as well as 2 holes underneath on the frame, one where your tow hook was, or your recovery loop was, and the same holes on the other side. Now the exhaust on the other side is typically in the way, so on most of these bumpers when we're doing the install, we actually chop the exhaust back a little bit further towards the tire. That way it's just not hanging down. The exhaust seems to get crushed off-road pretty quickly, so by cutting it back just a little bit further, it eliminates that issue, and we haven't had any issues with exhaust getting into the cab. So we're at the point right now where we're going to go ahead and start putting this up and into place. All right, so we've gotten the bumper installed now on the truck. So we're just bolting that up again, like we said, the 4 bolts in the front. It does sit just right over top of the hitch, as well as 4 bolts back up underneath. We have reattached the trailer wiring harness using the factory bracket in the factory location. So all you do is just put that right back up into place. What we're going to be looking for as we're putting this bumper onto the truck is we're looking for equal gap here. In this area, you should be at about a finger's width in there. Same on the opposite side. We want to make sure that that bumper is actually in there nice and square. The other thing we're going to look for here as we open this up, we're going to go ahead and shut the hatch, and we want to make sure that we've got adequate clearance here on the back side of the swing arms in relation to the back of the hatch. There's not a lot of room back here. It is pretty tight, but we want to make sure we're not sitting up against there. As we put a tire on this, it is going to pull it a little bit, but that's what we're looking for. The next thing we're going to do with this, we're working on running our wiring for our backup camera currently. We'll be running our wiring in from the hitch wiring in for our license plate. So we'll have that license plate light on there. That actually goes on the ladder that's over here, so we'll get that all done. And then we're going to go ahead and we'll start taking our measurements to actually cut our factory plastic to go ahead and cap this off and finish off the install. So we'll get working on all that and come back in just a second. So Ben's over here working on getting the camera wiring all soldered up and ready to go. You can use butt connectors for it, but solder obviously on video is a lot better method of connecting our wiring there. While we're doing that, I'm measuring out for doing our cut for the upper bumper portion. So what I like to do is actually work from a couple different points that are easy to transfer over to the factory bumper piece. So what I go from, or where I go from, is right at this corner where the fender flare ties into the body. I'm going to take the measurement right from the top of the bumper to there. I'm right at about 5 inches, just a hair over 5. On this one here, I go right up to the peak where it ties in up at that corner, and I should be right around 10 and 7/8 on this one. Every truck is going to have a little bit of variance based on the vehicle. It is a body on frame truck, so there are some minor variations, but it should be pretty close to that number just about every single time you put these on. If you run into an issue where one side is sitting up higher or lower than the other, on the high side, normally what we'll see is it'll be even here, and if there's any variance in it, it could be off at this front portion. If that's the case, you can, on the lower mount, on the high side, go ahead and pull those bolts out, and you can shim it with a washer, and it'll actually pull and twist that corner down to try to match the other side. We typically want them to be pretty close to even, but they don't have to be absolutely perfect. So we should see right about that 5-inch mark here. It's going to vary anywhere from 4 7/8 up to about 5 3/8, depending on what we run into. When we do our measurements and we transfer those to the next piece, we do want to leave a small amount of gap between the bumper and the plastic piece. That's just enough room so that the body can flex and the bumper can move back and forth without causing damage to the vehicle. The reason we don't do full replacement bumpers is simply for that fact that there is movement in the bumpers on the frame. They're tied to the frame. The body is tied in with body mounts, which are softer, and you will get some movement between the body and the frame that is separate. So you'll get some flex and movement. So full replacement bumpers, we try to stay away from that just simply because of avoiding body damage and damage to the taillights. Same thing with the front bumper. We don't want damage to the metal panels or to the headlights. So with this, we're going to take those 2 measurements on each side. You can get everything you need off of those 2 measurements. So once we come over to the bumper over here, I've gone ahead and transferred these measurements over. So I'm going to run from that same point here straight down. You can see here I'm cutting this at 4 3/4 of an inch. I'm leaving about a 1/4 inch of gap for that body flex. Up at the top here, I'm running about 10 3/4 approximately. Same thing, that's just leaving us just enough of that gap. So we only need about a 1/4 of an inch of gap. Once you take those 2 measurements, mark those out. I run a piece of tape across those, make sure it looks nice and straight. I like to use the 1-inch green frog tape. You can see more on that in our front bumper installation video. And then the 2-inch painter's tape on top, it just gives us a nice transition point to be able to see where our cut line is. You can see I've drawn out the arrows here to know where the cut line is, mainly just for the video, but that's going to be our cut line when we go ahead and do the cut. Now once we wrap around the corner here, we can keep that line parallel with this indented line here. So if we measure up when we get to this corner, and we just run that line across, we just want to keep and maintain a parallel line just from that seam right there. That's also going to wrap around the back side on the inside corner here. Once we get up to the top front face of the bumper, you can see here I'm using again that 1-inch thick green frog tape, masking tape. I put the top edge of my tape right here at the top edge of this lip. Now we're going to just tuck that in and down into that dip right there, that little step down, and our cut line is going to be out. It's right about 3/4 of an inch from that inside corner, or that step down, the bottom of that step. It's about 3/4 of an inch in. This is going to give you a good clean finish when everything's done and it's all put on the truck, but also covers up any gaps as well. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and used a larger drill or a drill bit and gone ahead and done some pilot holes here, and then up in this corner you can see where we're wrapping up. We're going to meet in that corner there, so we're just wrapping this tape line up and around. I've drilled holes here, here, and here, and we're going to do our cuts that way. When we do our cut, just like on the front bumper installation, I like to use a jigsaw with a fine-tooth metal blade. We're going to go ahead and cut from the center out. And so when I do this, we're going to cut here up to this corner, then here up to this corner, and then I'll work from one side over and just go ahead and finish off the cut that way. Once the cut's done, we'll have the upper piece that we'll retain, the lower piece is trash. All right, so we've completed the cut, and overall the cut's pretty square, but you'll see there's some areas that there's a little bit of green where we drop down, so it's not quite 100% even there. It's also got all these little burrs and everything on it. So at this point, to get the cleanest cut you can, if you take a DA sander and just some sandpaper on there, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and we're just going to clean the whole edge along this line. All right, so with that, we're just being careful not to roll over the edge because we don't want to get into the paint. But that should eliminate most of your, most of the little strangly pieces that are coming off after the cut. And when we peel this back, it should give us just about a factory clean edge all the way along. So there shouldn't be any need for any trim or any other things to mask up a rough or bad cut. So if you do it that way, you take your time, make sure that cut's straight, and then you can straighten it out with the sander as you go. It's going to give you a really clean factory cut appearance, and just overall a really clean look. All right, so once the bumper's installed here, you'll see these two bolts down here. There's a plate underneath that we're tying back into the frame. This frame plate is what gives you that lateral strength and its side impact. It also keeps the bumpers from bouncing around with the tires. So these get installed one on each side into the threaded frame holes and up in here, and it drops just down and around the pinch weld on the body seam. All right, so we finished up the install of the bumper. We've gotten everything done. We do have the bumper cover cut now. We've gone ahead and installed the accessories on this. So this one's got our ladder system on there. We did install the license plate, run the light for the license plate back down in. We do tie that into the wiring on the hitch. So if you're tying in your hot wire, it is the green wire right at the end of your hitch wiring. So we'll have a picture of that as well. On the passenger side, we've installed the camera here on the supplied tab, as well as the mount for the tire. So where we're at right now is everything is pretty much installed other than the bumper cover. So we're going to go ahead, get the bumper cover installed, get all of the bolts in place, and just do all the final fit and get this thing on the road. Here you can see the bumper cover as we put it on. We're just kind of twisting it in underneath the tail light and up over our hinge bolt assembly here so that you can get that all in place. You can see that our cut line here, as we measured, it's nice and straight against that bumper line. Gives it a real good clean finish. It does just get press back into the factory clips, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start working on the inside edge here to finish the trim out on that. In addition, on the back side, we are going to reinstall all of the bolts that we took out here. Get that out, as well as put in the cap here, and you can see it does leave you a nice finish here at the back end of the truck. All right, so we've just completed the installation of our rear bumper here. Takes about 4 to 5 hours on average to install these. Definitely helps to have 2 guys doing it as far as lifting it up, putting it in place. Some of the features on this bumper, obviously we've got the full aluminum body, so this is, the whole bumper section itself is only 43 pounds. With the swing arms, all of our accessories, those are steel. But our whole assembly like this, the bumper itself with the accessories, is only right at about 130 pounds total weight. So it's an extremely lightweight bumper, but extremely strong. You're not going to have to worry about any weak points or anything there. You do have the integrated 1-inch thick recovery points. These are actually all the way through, welded through the body of the truck. They're about 3 inches deeper into the body, right against the mounting system. And then some of the features that we have our ladder, our high lift mount here. Your high lift jack just bolts up against this if you've got one. We do have the integrated license plate light down below here. To open this bumper up, this is your safety latch here, so safety pin. You're going to pull your spring pin, which is tight when they're new. Edit. There it is. This is going to open all the way up, and then they lock into place on the outside as well, so that they're not going to come shut on you. So once they're in place, they do lock shut. The other arm then at that point just swings open. Again, same thing with the spring pin here. So to shut this, you're just going to pull the spring pins out, let that drop back in. This will line up to that pin. Same thing on the other side. Obviously you've got all your camera wiring and everything hiding in behind there. That goes in, locks into place. And your safety pin, that just keeps everything locked into place in case you do have a failure with the spring pins. Tire carrier is adjustable both up and down and in and out depending on the size of tire you have. And that's pretty much it. But let us know if you've got any questions. Hopefully this helps you with the installation of your bumper. Check us out online at heftyfab.com. Thanks. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. We're just getting ready to do an install. So let me go ahead and... It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine?